Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. And now the Friday Crime Report. Oliverhurst, California, Wednesday, March 26, 2025, 7:50 a.m. Law enforcement officers from several different agencies converged on Kestrel Court in the Yuba County town of Oliverhurst executing a search warrant. That warrant was one of 20 that were served across Yuba, Sutter, Tehama, and Butte counties as part of a years-long investigation into a transnational drug trafficking operation. The search was part of a years-long effort by local, state, and federal agencies investigating a group of family members suspected of transporting potentially thousands of pounds of drugs from Mexico to street-level dealers in Northern California. When the task force got to the target's home, they made entry into the house, but they wound up being ambushed by a suspect inside the home. One of the members of the Marysville PD SWAT team, 27-year-old Osmar Rodarte, was grievously wounded in the shootout. The sheriff's office said that the suspect was also shot in the exchange of gunfire.
And with breaking news, investigators now revealing the name of the man they say shot and killed Marysville police officer Osmar Rodarte. And we're also getting our first look at him now. He was 60-year-old Rick David Oliver of Oliverhurst. Officials say he was struck by return gunfire and died inside the home.
Authorities described Oliver as a low-level drug dealer who had been helping to distribute drugs throughout the area. The task force reported that they had arrested 20 people on that Wednesday alone across 4 different counties, giving them 45 people in custody total. Osmar Rodarte was taken to a hospital but later declared dead. He was given the usual honor guard for his casket being taken to the place of burial, and yet for some reason we didn't see the Blue Lives Matters crowd making a cause celeb out of this guy. But as usual, we only hear that line if a cop is believed to have been killed by a black person. As a result of that raid, officials say that they seized firearms, ammunition, drugs, and drug-related items such as scales. They also said that they disrupted 2 different drug labs. Among the contraband, drugs, and items that were retrieved, the authorities listed meth, heroin, fentanyl, cocaine, marijuana, firearms, and money, at least $150,000. These amounts include what the task force seized before the deadly raid on the 26th, as well as what they confiscated on the day. And as for Rick Oliver, you won't be surprised to learn that this wasn't his first brush with the law. In 2012, he pleaded guilty to sex with a minor and an allegation of great bodily injury because the girl became pregnant. He was supposed to have been sentenced, but he fled. He was later tracked down to Nevada and brought back to Yuba County. He also has a history of drug possession and DUIs. Since he was a felon, he was supposed to be prohibited from possessing a firearm, but of course criminals don't obey the laws. When he was recaptured following his pedophilia conviction, white media reports were that at that time he was looking at the possibility of serving up to 8 years in prison. It's unclear how much time he actually served, or even if he had to serve time, but regardless, this criminal violated a child, skipped town, and when he was recaptured, the most he was looking at was 8 years. Racial immunity from law is real. It's like playing a video game with unlimited lives. The recipients of racial privilege know that the laws don't really apply to them, so why not take total advantage? When you have cases like the affluenza teen Ethan Couch who killed 4 people then skipped the country, was recaptured, and only had to do a couple of years in prison before being let out, people tried to claim that that was all because he came from a wealthy and influential family. And yet we keep seeing cases like this over and over and over again, with people who are neither rich nor influential. This Rick Oliver creep wasn't from a rich family. He was a low-level drug dealer handing out drugs to the area and a pedophile going back to 2012. There's only one thing that this Oliver character had in common with Ethan Couch. You could literally say it was skin deep. The Marysville police chief said that the gentleman, talking about Oliver, should never have been out of jail. That's what he called a man who killed one of his cops. A gentleman. So when talking about a drug-dealing pedophile who killed a cop, they describe him as a gentleman. So you see, even when talking about someone who showed that he would as soon kill them as look at them, you got the cops who still refer to this guy with a high level of respect. Meanwhile, when talking about black law-abiding citizens who have committed no crime and broken no laws, these same police don't refer to black people with anywhere near this level of deference. The real crime is that this most likely didn't have to happen at all. Police conduct no-knock warrants all the time, like they did with Breonna Taylor. and they went into her apartment guns blazing. We see constant examples of police raiding black people's homes and killing the occupants, only to find out later that they were totally unarmed, or in the case of Breonna Taylor, they had never committed a crime to begin with. Now, had the police treated this Oliver felon the same way that they treat law-abiding black citizens, then they would have gunned him down immediately, but their code of racial solidarity caused them to see and treat this person differently, even after he had killed one of their own.
The chief says there needs to be harsher penalties that keep people like the suspect who allegedly shot and killed the Marysville police officer, 60-year-old Rick Oliver, a convicted felon, in prison. His message to lawmakers: Sacramento needs to wake up before more people die.
The police can complain all they want about the lawmakers not making the penalties tough enough, but in reality, the police are less likely to arrest someone like Oliver if they're not black, less likely to conduct a raid on their home, prosecutors are less likely to prosecute them, judges less likely to give them the maximum sentence, as long as they're not black. That's the real problem. And it's pointless for this police chief to demand that the lawmakers enact stiffer penalties, because they don't do that if they think it's going to be seen as a direct response to a non-black offender doing something. When they write the laws, they know that it's important that people understand these laws are being written specifically to address specific people. And well, if you got the complexion for the protection, far as they're concerned, that would be a bad look. They need a black suspect that they can write message legislation in response to. The laws and the penalties are already tough enough. Black people can attest to that because we experience it every single day. You almost never hear someone complaining the laws aren't tough enough in response to a black offender, because when the courts deal with black people, they always give us the harshest penalties. The laws are written to be based on race. No matter the crime, there's always a misdemeanor version which is applied to non-black offenders, while the first-degree felony version of every offense is applied to the black ones. If you're black, you get hit with the first-degree version of whatever it is. On the other hand, if you have the complexion for the protection, you get probation, whatever it is. What's lacking in America is enforcement of the laws against people who are not black. This is the racial immunity from law that the dominant society demands, including the police. And this is the result. Given his record, were he black, this Oliver character would have already been on his third strike. But he's not, and that's the problem. This is the cost of insisting on having a two-tiered, color-coded injustice system. Instead of whining about black people rightly calling out police brutality and murders, what they should be doing is focusing on people like this Oliver person, because I'll bet you any amount of money that this guy had friends, if not family, in law enforcement. Cops like to think that they're the only ones with legal immunity to kill. But this society allows people from the dominant society to engage in all kinds of behavior that, were they black, would have them locked up easily. And when they find out that even taking a life doesn't get punished as harshly as it does for a black person, well, you gotta expect that some of those folks are going to indulge that privilege, including when it means putting the police in the line of fire. And that's this week's Friday Crime Report. Keep your eyes open and stay on alert, because there's a lot worse criminals out there than the ones the white corporate media chooses to show you. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors: Cloudwalker Z, Morris Bodden, Tomorrow, Sean, and Anthony Williams. Salute to them, and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.